Hey everybody, journal prompt for the day. How do you express yourself when you feel negativity? So do you communicate or express yourself assertively, passively, or aggressively? Do you know already? Are you ready to dig deeper, see where it all comes from? Grab your journal, come journal with me. Again, my name is Robin Knott. I'm your host. I'm Frozen. I'm your host of Energy Healing TV and podcast on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, and founder of the EnergyHealingSchool.com. So again, welcome to the Energy Healing Lifestyle Journal Self-Care Challenge, and we are on our day. We are on day, oh my goodness, 33. Talking about communication, huh? So on Fridays, we talk about communication, obviously, right? As well as throat chakra energy and speaking more truth. So, I'm sorry, I sit here and then I still can't get comfortable. Your truth. We have two aspects of self, right? And therefore, in a sense, we have two truths, if you will. What I mean by that is, how do we react or respond? Do we react from like in a trauma response in that fight, flight, freeze mode? Excuse me. Or are we able to remain grounded within ourselves, feel in deeply, feeling safety and security within ourselves, where we can just assertively respond in a situation? Because they're very different. And oftentimes, when we're in that space where we're grounded within ourselves, we're connected divinely, right? So we're speaking our highest truth. We're able to speak up for self in a way that is assertive, that can be heard. Not that everybody will like it, but they don't have to, right? But that we will be heard, or we can be heard at least. We're presenting ourselves in a way that we don't feel like we're in that fight, flight, and freeze mode. We're not just reacting. Oftentimes, for myself, anyways, in reflection, as we do these journaling processes and over the years of healing, I could see that my defensiveness, right? So when I felt judged or criticized, as we've been talking about this week, when I felt judged or criticized, I was on the defense. And then I reacted oftentimes aggressively, right? Not necessarily physically aggressively, but verbally harshly. The tone, the energy that I then projected out, right, was kind of that fight mode. Are you guys aware of your styles? Do you see when is it different? Because it depends sometimes, right? It depends on situations. It depends on who it is. Some people might be more triggering than others. Some situations might feel more triggering than others. That's why we do this process, right? Because we want to increase our self-awareness. So we want to be aware, assess, and align. Increase our self-awareness, align that energy. So is my communication style in alignment with the source of unconditional love? If I'm in fight, flight, freeze mode, still, I don't want to say stuck in, but in a sense, I have a lot of that traumatic energy hanging around in my energy field, then that's not in alignment with the source of unconditional love. And I don't mean that we shouldn't meet it with love and compassion or have love for it. It just means that's not what's meant for us, to be stuck in that space, right? I can you feel like the ego, in a sense, the human ego wants to defend itself, because we know that, trauma is trauma. We call it trauma for a reason, right? It's big, it's a crisis, it's huge, it's everlasting, not ever, long lasting, big effects on the humans, right? I say that like I'm not one. But it does have long lasting, deep effects on us. So it's massive. It's justified that we create these survival techniques. It's justified that we've had to go to these extreme measures to survive situations. Not dismissing or minimizing that at all. So therefore, to say that that's not in alignment with the source of unconditional love, meaning the trauma, that heaviness, those cycles, feeling like you're in survival mode, feeling like you have to be in fight mode, feeling like you have to freeze to survive, feeling like you have to take off running to survive. that's not in alignment with the source of unconditional love, right? So being able to heal ourselves or allow healing to occur so that we can start to release some of that, heal those different layers, so we can get into alignment with the source of unconditional love, because you deserve it. You deserve to not have that pain. You deserve to not have to carry on that trauma. You deserve to not have to be in fight, flight, freeze mode all the time, right? So that, no blame, shame, or guilt for where we're at. I love that we can have conversations and empower each other through this process. So with that being said, let me give some big kudos and thank yous and express gratitude for everyone who has been commenting on the lives and the posts. Because if you've noticed, I've been putting the journal prompt up. I try to remember to do it early enough in the day. Sometimes it's time slips by me a little bit, but I post the journal prompt on my Facebook page, in the group, and in the community on YouTube. And then I come on and talk about it right in this video. So thank you to everyone who's been participating. It's amazing. I love to see your comments. I appreciate that. And I think it really helps support each other when we do that. So we can see different perspectives. We can see we're not alone. Even if we're in different spaces, there's still lots of similarities going on, right? And in those moments where we feel like we might be stuck and we can't get through it, to be able to see other people's comments, they give those indications that there is getting through it, right? That's empowering, that's supportive, and I love that. Love it. So again, thank you. I look forward to seeing more. I'm trying to be greedy, but I do. I love seeing the communication and having the engagement and the support for each other. It's beautiful. The whole purpose and idea of the journaling process, my whole movement, which is a self-love movement. Self-love is looking within, but it doesn't mean we always have to do it alone, right? There's enough of us out there that are working on ourselves. There's enough of us out there that take on a lot of stuff, right? So there's enough of us out there that we don't have to do it alone. We can support each other, and that's amazing. I love it. So let me check my journal and see where I was leaving off, because I went on my rant, which I haven't really done that in a while. I don't know. Maybe every day. Communication styles. So when I posted this question today, a couple of comments already on that was, which I really felt, the first one about having an experience where the negativity was so intense that the person had to go rest and like slept for a period of time, right? And it's a way to just deal with that intensity of extreme negativity. And that is a lot. And you notice I use the phrase empathic healers a lot. And I feel like we do deal with a high level of negativity often, especially depending on certain places, right? Oh, it's ringing. At least I turned that ringer off. I forgot about the other one. So if that one rings, my apologies. And then there's choices. And I always come back to choices, because we do have free will and accountability and choices. So sometimes in those situations, it gets tricky, because we choose to be in a situation that's not exactly healthy. However, based on values, strong values, right? Other pieces of that perspective. So I know a lot of us talk about, this might be a little off, maybe not. A lot of us talk about the collective, right? We want to heal the collective. We want to come together as a collective. We're trying to shift our energy as a collective, right? With the talk of the new world, the 5D, the higher vibration. We take care of ourselves, and by taking care of ourselves, we help, we heal, and we lift ourselves. And as we lift ourselves, there's that ripple effect, right, going outward and for everyone. However, I find that it's much easier, just to be transparent, it's much easier to stay in that higher vibration in solitude, right? I don't have to communicate with anybody. I could just be in, well, what used to be my space, clear the energy in my space. I'm not home anymore, right, guys? At home, I had my space, I had my healing room. I could clear the energy. I mean, I clear it here too, but then there's other forces that project on that energy. So it's like this ongoing thing, right? So, in one way, like I have this desire of solitude because in solitude, now is this fight, flight, freeze mode? In solitude, I feel that I can work on myself. It's easier, right? You don't have those interactions. You're not met with that energy all the time. You don't have to combat it or whatever, deal with your triggers and all the things. You can just focus on you and work in your own pace and do all the things, and life is good. But it doesn't always. It's not. We get to choose. So if that's what you choose to do, no blame, shame, or guilt. This is not a blame, shame, or guilt game at all, right? Because I own my choices. I can choose that. I can still choose that, technically. I can still choose that. However, I've chosen differently, right? So I've chosen to be a caregiver for my mom. Mhm. So I am in her home. So we still work on environment and on ourselves, meaning I still work on the space I'm in. I clear this space as much as I can, in the space as much as I can, right? Anybody else out there that is like caregiver, or where you made those choices that you stay in certain situations or you continue to be in certain negativity because you have that passion, you have that drive, you have that value to do so, right? It's in your belief system that is part of healing the collective too. And in other ways, it's also opportunities, right? I wouldn't have known some of the layers were still existent within me had I not had this experience. Because when I'm in solitude, nothing's triggering me. And if nothing's triggering me, I think everything's fine and cleared and healed, then I'm good. Good to go. But when I'm not in that solitude, in that space of solitude, and I'm in a different environment, then the triggers present themselves, right? Situations may come about where the trigger shows up, and then I find myself again in fight, flight, freeze mode. So, communication style, energy in the throat chakra, how do I communicate that? Well, sometimes not very well. Sometimes I'm assertive. Sometimes I'm sarcastic or try to joke it off. And sometimes I just don't, like, right? Like, don't speak. Just don't. There's that phrase of pick your battles, right? So communication is massive. If you ever like study communication or you really delve into the different communication styles, both for verbal, nonverbal, like facial expressions, body language, your physical sensations, your physical sensations, body language, listening styles, right? There's so much involved in it, and there's so many ways that we communicate and express ourselves, and some do it in other ways too, completely different, like artistically, right? Creating songs or writing songs or drawing or writing stories. Many ways to communicate, many ways to get things out. So oftentimes it's very direct and indirect, right? Writing that down. Indirect and direct communication. Okay. And also in the world of energy and spirituality, we communicate on that different level, right? Etheric, in the etheric world, in the etheric level. So, what ways do you communicate when you are faced with negativity? Again, I just shared kind of some ramblings of the journaling process and how I allow my brain to just flow, right? So I got to speak it out instead of write it out, but still, hopefully, it's helpful for you to be able to see how the process goes. Because again, we take the journal. Don't always have to find the answers right away, right? Even though we start with a question, the question is there to increase our self-awareness. And this is about becoming aware so that we could go through that process, be aware, assess, and align, get into alignment with the source of unconditional love. It's not blame, shame, and guilt. And we're probably not going to wave a magic wand and fix everything in one day, right? Not yet. So in the journaling process, literally, like I write the question down, how do you express yourself when you feel negativity? And I add the words that we're using for the day, so I keep that focus in mind, because as you see, the mind can take off in different directions, which is okay. But to then redirect and pull it back. So dealing with communication, which truth are we speaking from? Are we allowing, because I would say my ego really likes to be snarky and aggressive when it speaks. So my truth is loud. When my ego takes over, my ego truth is loud. And sometimes my ego truth is very quiet as well, like clam up, shut down type of quiet. My highest truth, I'm still balancing that, right? My highest truth allows me to process. So I get quiet, but then there's that processing and, within, checking the energy, making sure I'm not veering off in one direction, too far in one direction, making sure that I'm in a good space, grounding within myself, managing my human emotions, managing that fight, flight, freeze mode before I could then speak and communicate assertively, calmly and assertively, right? So it's become more of a process. So sometimes it's not what we say, it's not doing that quick reaction. Sometimes it's taking that pause moment to process, ground within your body, have the emotions managed, right? Tap in so that you're actually responding from your highest truth versus that human reaction that's very quick and on the defense oftentimes, so that you can then speak assertively, right? Some things you might find that, that wasn't even a thing. Like it wasn't worth bringing up and you can let it go as long as it's like okay and you let it go and not stuffing it and avoiding it, because that's very different, right? So communication is also sometimes that process, allowing yourself a pause, a moment to breathe, ground within yourself, manage the emotions, sit with it and see and check in to make sure that we understood what we heard correctly, right? Because when you're in fight, flight, freeze mode, when that trigger is switch is flipped, however you want to word that, we don't always hear things or understand them as they were meant to be, right? We heard it from that trauma response, that trauma lens. We didn't hear it from how it was meant to be. So that's another great reason for me to pause, for all of us, but I'm just speaking from my own journal space here for a moment. Yeah, and then be aware of your direct and indirect communication. I think that's plenty to journal on for today. So thank you for all who popped on the live and come back from the replay. Thank you again for everyone who is commenting in the communities. Homework, as always, check in with yourself. Continue your journaling process to increase your awareness, assess your energy, see if you're in alignment with the source of unconditional love. And if not, what is that action step you can take to get into alignment with the source of unconditional love? And holding space for yourself might be just that. Feel it to heal it is an action. It's a big action. Okay. If you haven't already signed up for the Empathic Healers Masterclass, a step-by-step guide to set boundaries and protect your energy, and meet me back here tomorrow. Also, I'm going to try to remember to invite you as well. If you're not already attuned to Reiki, Reiki has been an amazing, amazing learning process and of healing and clearing for me. If you've heard of Reiki, if you're interested in Reiki, if you're not already attuned to Reiki, I have a link in the description as well if you would like to check out the description of my Reiki intensive course. You can go to the main page as well. I have the first 2 levels separate if you would also like to just check those out, which is absolutely amazing. I'd love to see you there. Meet me back here tomorrow. We will talk about the third eye chakra energy and acceptance and being in observer mode, right? Because we're being the observer of this experience and not getting sucked down into more human egoness where it can beat us down. We're just being the observer. We're increasing our awareness so we can clear out anything that's not serving us anymore and call in the things that do, right? Thank you for being you. Take good care. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.